Modern man looks out at the world and sees himself at the peak of progress. We operate under a pervasive assumption that we are the freest, most highly rational, and independent generation to ever walk the earth. This assumption is the result of centuries of secular conditioning. The modern environment teaches us from birth that the self is the ultimate sovereign, that morality is relative, and that the material world, the dunya, is the only horizon. That this creates a contradiction. If we are completely liberated and guided by pure reason, society should be thriving. Instead, it is marked by a profound, restless spiritual exhaustion. This perceived absolute freedom exists as a systemic outer veil, a layer of distraction designed to keep us blind to our own subtle captivity. To find truth, we have to stop looking at the neon lights of the outside world. We have to turn inward and dismantle the hidden mechanics operating within ourselves. When the external world's messaging penetrates our defenses, it activates the nafs, the lower, baser self. This internal mechanism runs on a constant craving for comfort, social status, and absolute control. The ego does not work alone. It is aided by an intimate companion, an inner whisperer known as the Qareen, which personalizes these base desires. This whisperer avoids obvious evil commands. Instead, it quietly justifies the ego's instincts. It suggests that you know better, or that you can always repent later, disguising these whispers perfectly. This intimate whispering connects to a wider spiritual assault, a steady stream of shaitanic insinuation designed to feed rebellion and doubt. This assault is effective because it beautifies our flaws. It frames outright arrogance as personal strength and repackages cynicism as high intelligence. At this point, the individual wanders through a dense psychological maze, yet remains convinced they are making independent, objective choices. Modern society celebrates free, independent thinking, even as the individual succumbs to a coordinated psychological hijacking driven by unseen desires. This diagram shows the result of that hijacking. The central spiritual heart is walled off from receiving light. The outer intellect nodes turn gray and malfunction. They no longer serve objective truth, rewiring backward as a defense mechanism to justify the ego's cravings. This brings us to the final, most heavily fortified barrier protecting this broken system: kibr, or absolute pride. Pride rejects spiritual guidance because the ego perceives the act of yielding as a humiliation. It chooses self-rule over the acknowledgement of a higher authority. The search for truth ends at the border of arrogance, the point where the self chooses its own pride over the act of bowing. Strip away the external world, the ego, the whispers, and the protective walls of pride. When you reach the absolute center of the human experience, you are left facing a single, unavoidable question. This image represents the ultimate question. What is your criterion for reality? Human reason or divine revelation? This choice determines the hierarchy of truth. Either human reason sits in judgment of God's revelation, or revelation sits in judgment of human reason. Clarity and freedom arrive when the prideful self is dismantled. Submission to Allah and the Sunnah of Muhammad is the conscious, willing choice to remove your own crown. Submission rescues the human intellect by placing reason back within its proper boundaries. When reason returns to its place beneath revelation, the systems align, the inner veils dissolve, the spiritual heart unlocks, the internal compass points true, and ultimate peace is finally achieved.